Hey everybody, my name is Emily and welcome back to my channel where I review, critique, and summarize scary children's books. Hi guys! So I know it's been a while, I haven't done a video in so long, so I'm so excited to do a review for you guys today. My background has changed, a lot of stuff has changed. I now have a master's degree, yay! That's where I was defending my thesis and it was successfully defended and now I actually have time to do videos again. So why not celebrate with one of my favorite books? Today I will be your guide to what there is before there is anything there, written and illustrated by the cartoonist Liniers. In this video, I will summarize the book for you, I will talk about the content of the book a little bit and give that a bit of a review, and finally I will talk about any horror elements at play here as always. So let's get started. So what there is before there is anything there is about a little boy who every night undergoes this very scary experience once his parents say goodnight to him and turn off his light. Once he is in the dark, he finds that the ceiling of his bedroom opens up into a huge, vast nothingness, this void. And out from this void come a whole manner of strange creatures floating down, and they line up at the end of his bed and just stare at him. They don't say anything, they just stare. And once all of the creatures are assembled at the foot of his bed and looking at him, the final creature comes out of the void and declares, "I am what there is before there is anything there." And it's this terrifying experience that he has to go through every night. And in the book, he runs to his parents' room and asks to sleep in their bed with them. And they tell him that what happens to him actually isn't real. It just means that he has an incredible imagination. And that's actually a good thing. So they tell him not to be afraid. But as soon as he crawls into bed with his parents and his mother and father go to sleep, he finds that the ceiling above their bed opens up into a void, and the first creature floats down again to stare at him. It just keeps happening. So guys, I love this book, and as you know, I am a huge fan of Liniers. I think his work is just astounding, so this book is one of my favorites. The fact that this book was created by a comics artist comes out in a number of really cool ways throughout the book. So Liniers uses paneling in some really interesting ways. He uses very cartoonish illustrations. The little boy in particular is super expressive and super indicative of Liniers' other work. I love this general motif of pastel colors and this sort of off-white yellowish background. It makes the whole book almost look like it's printed on almost parchment, and everything looks almost a little bit faded in a way that I really like. It gives the book this age that is really, really interesting when you're considering the context of this story, interacting with something very old that comes forth to speak with you in the night. But at the same time, these sort of pastel-y faded colors are contrasted against a real emphasis on darkness. So for example, the end pages here are just pitch black, just total darkness here. And when the little boy's light is clicked out by his parents and the creatures start to descend from the ceiling, we can see that the darkness up here is just this really oppressive, heavy cross-hatching. So it really gives it a sense of darkness overhanging his bed, this oppressive overshadowing of darkness. It gives us this really, really creepy vibe. And then the design of the creatures is so fun. I'll hold this up so you guys can see. So we can see that they're a little bit cartoony. We have some interesting costumes. They're almost bordering on funny. So here we have this guy with the party hat here, this guy with the wings, and here they are all surrounding his bed. So we do get that sense of each of them having kind of a different personality, but they are all pretty creepy, even though they look kind of funny. He really rides the line here. And I really like the writing of this book. Of course, this book is in translation from the original Spanish, so that does affect the rhythm of the book. It affects the pacing just a little bit. You get the sense that everything would flow a little bit better if reading this in the original Spanish instead of the translated English. But that being said, it doesn't impact the reading experience negatively really in any way. It's just that I'm always aware of this book being in translation. I'm always sort of thinking about how much more smooth it might be if I were to read it in the original language. So that's all I want to say about the content of this book, because most of what I want to talk about in this video are actually the horror elements at play here, because this is a scary book. It's actually almost so scary that I think it rides the line between being a picture book for actual picture book aged children and just being a picture book for older readers and even adults. I'll put the link to the Goodreads page for this book in the description below, and if you guys go read about this book, you'll see that there are a lot of negative reviews from parents who had bad experiences reading this to their children because it's just scary. It's just really, really horror-y for a picture book. And it's interesting because I don't think that this book presents as a picture book for older readers. I think people could pick this up and think that it is for really young children because it is a picture book and because Liniers' art style is cartoonish. But don't be fooled, this book is quite scary. And even though I think kids are definitely capable of liking and enjoying something like this, I'll tell you a little bit about why I would approach this book with caution if you are going to do something like a read aloud. So first, I want to talk a little bit about the protagonists' parents in this book. A lot of what they say and do throughout the story is meant to soothe the little boy and to alleviate his fear and to make sure that he knows that it is just his imagination. But it's really interesting what Liniers does because what he does in the illustration totally undercuts everything that the parents say in the text. So even though they are kind of put up in the text as being these places of safety and security for the little boy, these people that he can run to in times of need, the illustration makes them seem totally ineffectual and totally like they just can't help him at all with this experience. And the way he does this is by never showing their faces and actually cutting their heads off in the illustration all the time. So we never actually get to see what they really look like. Their heads are always just beyond the rim of the illustration here. It's really freaky. It really makes it seem like this boy is in this just nightmarish landscape where even his parents can't help him. And I'll speak a little bit more about this later as well, but for now I also want to talk about the last creature that comes to visit the little boy every time this happens. This thing that declares, "I am what there is before there is anything there." So this creature is basically manifesting as just this huge face that comes out in the darkness with these sort of tendrils, these branches that come out and reach towards the little boy in his bed. It's really, really creepy. It's a super creepy image for a picture book. And its declaration of "I am what is there before there is anything there" actually hits on a lot of things that come up in other horror texts. So for example, there are definitely notes of existential horror here. This idea that this ceiling opens up into this nothingness, this void. It really is this existential discomfort with expansiveness, this discomfort with nothingness. And I think it's meaningful that this creature that comes out of the void, this "I am what there is before there is anything there" creature, is this ancient being that is implied to be kind of there before anything else is. This discomfort with something ancient, like coming forth, singling you out, talking to you, something that is completely unknown. It's got this sort of inherent power. It is very Lovecraftian, actually, I think. And to return to his parents in this book, I think it's really interesting that what they do in the story is really try to frame his fear, this fearful experience that he has, as being symptomatic of something that is actually really good. It's symptomatic of this amazing and active imagination that he has. So what they do is try to turn his nighttime fear into something good. They try to frame it as something actually positive. But at the end of the book, it becomes clear that they really can't save him from his own imagination. So at the very end of the book, we can see that even though he crawls into bed with his parents, this is the very last page, the creature floats down again and the whole process just continues itself. So this is really interesting. I think this book does have a pretty powerful theme of doing the mental work yourself to understand your fear and to actually kind of see it as a positive thing, as something that is indicative of a very bright imagination. However, I don't know if this theme is communicated clearly or powerfully enough in this book for picture book aged kids to understand it on their own. I think this book requires a conversation between child and adult for it to be effective at all as a kind of fear alleviating nighttime book. And that's the thing, is that it is quite a literary book in this sense. It has this theme that you can unpack out of the story, and it doesn't just sort of spoon feed it to you like a lot of children's literature does. But at the same time, it's so scary that it might just be completely ineffectual at doing its job unless the adult has a conversation with the child that they're reading it with, right? So although I love this book and I think it's wonderfully crafted and I think it's fantastically literary and just an amazing, amazing book in itself, I'm saying that as an adult reader. I just sort of get what this book is trying to do, but as an adult reader, it's hard to say whether kids will or not. So if you're looking for a nighttime fear alleviating book, which makes up a number of these picture books that actually contain spooky elements, a lot of them are meant to be fear alleviating. If you're looking for a book like that, I think I would approach this one with caution. So it has the potential just to be really scary if you don't frame it in the right way. So guys, I would pick this up if you are an adult horror fan that is interested in children's literature and interested in picture books. I would also pick this up if you have an older child that is interested in scary stories and enjoys looking at illustrated books. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't pick this up if you have a picture book aged child that you think would like something like this, but I think you should approach it with caution. Definitely take a look through the book before you decide to read it out loud, perhaps to a group of children or to your own child. Something that I like about this book is that it is a really horror-positive book. It really frames the telling of scary stories in a way that makes it seem like a real positive thing. And I think Liniers really sort of puts his own fondness for scary stories into a book like this. And in this case, I think his dedication is really telling. He says, "This book is dedicated to my parents who turned out my light and lit up my imagination." Alright guys, so that is it for my review today. Thank you as always for watching. And I know I've been absent on this channel for a while, but I am looking forward to having more time to do more reviews for you guys, and just more time to read in general. When you're defending your thesis, it's like it just takes up all of your headspace, as I'm sure a lot of you know who have been through kind of the same thing. So guys, if you liked the video, go ahead and give it a like. If you want to see more of me on here, if you want to know more about scary picture books like this or other horror texts in children's literature, go ahead and click subscribe. I'll be here doing scary kids book reviews for the foreseeable future. Alright guys, thank you again as always for watching, and I'll see you again next week.